Hey there guys, this is Obsidian Chill. Got another video for you today. This is a continuation of my guide series. We're on to light now. As before, all the comments for all the sections are going to be in the pinned comment below. So if you want to skip to the melee, single target, controller sections, do that there. Now, you can skip ahead if you'd like. I'm just going to give you like a brief kind of background of my history with light, because this is a video that I'd been putting off for quite some time, or a matter of switching to this power set again for quite some time. I haven't been light in years. It just never interested me, not because it was like a trash power set. It was just that I just couldn't stand what the power set had become. Like, if you rewind back in time to like late 2011, early 2012, when light was in its prime, for DPS specifically, you were only limited by your own abilities in terms of how fast you could clip. Like a gadget DPS, you could jump cancel, fear gas and the Gauss grenade, do your intimidation, cryo field clips, all you want. But as long as you had power as hard light, there basically hardly was any limits at all. All your cool powers had instant cooldowns. You could clip all your constructs with other powers. It was really fun. It was a staple of this game. And that's basically the reason why you know me as Obsidian Chill, and I'm not just like some random nobody, is because of what I did as light. When the game first came out, I was a tank only. I was fire and then switched to ice, but I didn't even care remotely about DPS. This didn't interest me. I wanted the tank, and that's how I learned the game and the foundational mechanics of the game through tanking. But when DLC 3 came out, which is Prime Battleground and Gates, that's where they introduced the no roll buffs. So what that meant was that if you didn't run with a tank, the entire group would get like a defense buff. You'd take less damage. And what that meant translated to a raid, it was easier to beat Prime Battleground without a tank than it was with one. So all the LFG groups wouldn't accept you as a tank. I could only run with my league if I wanted the tank, and I didn't really know Ice DPS back then. So I was like, well, this is going to work. And it was Tunzo that did this, and he really defended the no roll buffs. Was it Tunzo? Pretty sure it was Tunzo. But yeah, it was pretty apparent that this was going to stay in the game for quite some time. So I had the choice. I was like, do I just run with my league and never be able to pug a raid, or do I switch DPS? And that's when I made the decision to switch to hardlight. And over a lot of practice and a lot of effort and a lot of time, I became, quite good, proficient with the power set. And you think I'm a dick now. I was a way bigger dick back then. That's where like I was going through the whole egomaniac DPS comp phase. I was running 10 to 15 gates raids every single day. If some guy wanted to talk shit in chat or LFG or anything like that, I'd be like, okay, just get a raid, let's go. Ironically, the whole reason why other people know me is from Odyssey and on the EU server. I only joined the EU server because back on the PC forums, there was a bunch of EU players that made a comment on a forum thread that's saying like, oh, the EU DPS are better than the US side, such and such and such. And I was like, well, screw it. Let's see. So I made an EU tune, joined Odyssey, and I had tier 3.5 gear, which was the gear that drops in gates, just like the common drops. And I had about 43 skill points as light. And I wrecked every DPS I came across with the shitty gear and skill points. And there was a time where I considered myself, a top 5 DPS in the entire game. The only people that I would put with me are like Wonder Diana or Valkyrie MD, a WD, depending on whichever you know his name. There's Cyrilta. There's on the EU side. There was Satla, In-Face. But yeah, we're getting off topic now. But that's where I made my bones in this game. This game, you don't really get popular or known or whatever you want to call it, by being as a healer or a controller or a tank. Like more people are drawn to a DPS, and that's what I did as light. And then when they slowly made all the changes, Whole Claw was blockable, and a bunch of other stuff, and then even advanced mechanics for hard light was trash. Like you had that unlimited combo where you even lost your advanced mechanic if you tried to use a supercharge. So it's just like super boring. And right now it's in a better spot, but not what when Stats Revamp came out. It was in a much better place, and then Stats Revamp, all the renditions slowly nerfed it. But so here Light is now. So sorry, I've kind of lost track of the guide here, but we've got some rotations for you today. I've got 3 different melee rotations, and then I've got 1 single target rotation to show you guys. Okay, for the first melee rotation, eventually I'll put a caption on the screen when I actually do the rotation, just so you guys know what constructs I'm using. But basically, hard light melee rotations basically have 3 variants. There's one where if the ads are going to die very quickly, like when you're in some old raid. There's one that if you find you get interrupted a lot using chainsaw, and then there's this rotation. So this rotation is the one that's going to give you the best results than any other rotation. But with chainsaw, because you're doing the top melee 5 times and then clipping back into Sonic Cry, eventually I'll show you the rotation. But it gets a little bit tricky because you can get interrupted or blocked out a chainsaw, and then it kind of screws up the whole rotation timing wise. So if you find you're doing that a lot or getting interrupted on chainsaw, then you can switch to one of the others. But in terms of the spec, exact same thing. Super powered focus, all your DPS crits, 105 into might and power, and then the rest into health. The reason why you want that is because you're running the health might artifact, and then I also have my 160 new artifact, Scrap of the Soul Cloak, in terms of your supercharge. In terms of mods, Blast Adapter is going to be exact same. Head mod, I run Inspiration because Strafing Run, you're not going to use it in every situation. Strafing Run, it's not a great supercharge. It's not a bad supercharge. It's like right in the middle. Neo Venom Boost helps in certain situations, so I'm not always going to be running it. So since I'm not always going to be benefiting from it, I might as well benefit from Inspiration for the extra crits, especially on a rotation involving Chainsaw where it's kind of slow. It's not much slow damage, but slower big hit damage. You have a much better chance for that to crit using Inspiration. Back mod, I use Accelerated Inspiration. Obviously, my neck mod's Escalating Might. Legs, you don't really, these restorative mods heal stupid amounts anyway, so, but I've got Restorative Whiplash. In terms of trinkets, I'm using the Breakout Trinket just so that I can clip in the rotation just to save myself some immunity so I don't get interrupted on Chainsaw. You don't necessarily have to run that if you don't want to. You could run the Slayer Sunken Rune, which is the best DPS trinket besides the 4 utility belt boos. Sorry, my chest I run Extended Supercharge. Basically, this gives me the benefit of having Strafing Run in my head and my chest. So I still get a bonus by using the Supercharge. I get a little bit of recovery from it. But in terms of the rotation, basically it's just going to be left to right, Sonic Cry, and then I'm going to clip Whip Thrash. I'm not going to do any constructs, just clip Whip Thrash with Inspiration. And then I'm going into Chainsaw times 5, and you've got Robot Psychic out. And in basically for supercharges, you've got 2 options. I'm using Strafing Run in this one, just because I'm being kind of messing around with it. Now, I'll show you in the testing later on in the video. Strafing Run, the dot on Strafing Run ticks for almost 20 seconds. So if you use Strafing Run, say on like a fresh set of ads, if they die before the dot ticks, you're losing a bit of damage. You still get the initial big burst, but you're not getting the full damage of Strafing Run because the ads will die too quickly. So if it's in like newer content, then sure you can use Strafing Run because the ads will survive. If you're running older content, you're much better off running Neo Venom Boost as a supercharge, or any raid where ads are going to die quickly, just because you're not going to get the full tick damage of Strafing Run. Okay, so in terms of the rotation, I'm sitting above to 27,891 might. And it's from left to right, like I said. And you'll see the caption just for when I do use a construct, just so you're aware of that that's what I'm hitting as a construct. And I'm running out of power there. So you can see from the parsers, 25, that's just because Inspiration hasn't had the full chance to tick on the crits. And then this is more typical, 28, 29, 23 is when I was running out of power. So I'm almost sitting at 30k rotation and I'm not buffed at all. I'm not on Nitro, not on Compound, and I'm still getting almost 30k parsers. You could try to get really fancy with hard light combos and clip a bunch of stuff, but in the end, think of it like keeping it like the KISS approach. If you've ever seen that on TV or read it in school or whatever, KISS is KISS, keep it stupid simple. The more you try to like get fancy with your rotation, you're just going to end up doing less damage. You just want a simple, straightforward approach to your light rotation. The reason why you get the issue is that this rotation can get interrupted sometimes using a chainsaw, like if you get stunned out of it or whatever. So you can screw up your timing and lose damage from that aspect. Like I said, that's when you just switch to another rotation. Your numbers might suffer a little bit, but basically this is like the best case scenario loadout. Okay, for the second melee rotation, this is the one where if you find yourself getting interrupted on chainsaw too much, you can try this one. This is basically going to be from left to right, Sonic Ride, then Power Whip Thrash. Then you're going to be basically clipping lightweight with the constructive whips, and then going into chainsaw times 5, and then repeating the combination. So the only construct you're using technically is the constructive whips. Okay, we'll stop it there. As you can see, it's still mid-20s for the parsers. The other issue is that... the other issue is just on the sparring targets, lightweight kind of knocks them around, so I'm missing some damage on whips and missing some damage on lightweight itself with the sparring targets being knocked away, just like you saw with my Iconic and my munitions videos. But you can still see it's still like 26, 25k in terms of damage, which is compared to my other rotation, which is like 27, 28, 29. So it's not that far behind, but you may find yourself not so much of as a damage loss, because the other rotation, if you get interrupted on chainsaw a lot, you're going to be at a damage loss, where this one, you got lightweight before chainsaw, so you're a bit less susceptible to damage loss. Okay, this rotation's more of like for old raids where ads are going to be dying quickly, or if you're looking for more of like a clip heavy fun rotation. In terms of this, it's going to be Sonic Cry, then Claw. I call it Hold Claw, but it's technically called Final Claw. Clip Final Claw with Ram. Then you're doing the construct of whips and clipping that with lightweight. So basically, it looks like technically Claw is single target. So if you're on a boss fight or something, or if there's an ad with more health, you might want to tab target to that. So Claw hits the target with full health. And you kind of get the picture. That this one, by no means is it like an amazing rotation or anything. It's just kind of like a low 20s rotation. But with this one, you really don't have to worry about getting interrupted at all because they're all 3-second cooldowns. So if you get interrupted or some stun heavy raid, you can still go back and start the rotation again. But you wouldn't want to use this on the newer raids. This is more for like old stuff you're running, like JFA or some Catalyst one or like a Lurch or something like that. You can have a bit more fun with it. Okay, for a single target, the loadout here, obviously the spec stays the exact same, nothing changes there. But in terms of loadouts, I personally run Strafing Run because I like those pop and forget supercharges. You can run Neo Venom just as well. But Strafing Run, because it's a boss fight or a single target encounter, there's pretty much a guaranteed likelihood that the Strafing Run dot will tick the entire time on the target. Where Neo Venom, say it's like first boss in SSE, if you pop Neo Venom and then you've got to like get a bomb or duck block the laser, TTB if you've got to change to a tentacle or whatever, or have to roll away from a tornado or a Zooey. You got tornadoes chasing you or block a charge. Like there's times where you're gonna be losing damage on Neo Venom, where Strafing Run you can just pop it and forget. As well as this is a heavy single target rotation. There's not much AoE, so that Strafing Run is going to be AoE damage. So that's why I personally run Strafing Run. You don't have to. Same thing with Lightweight Strike. Uh, just like with munitions one with using flat cannon versus shrapnel grenade launcher, and trap will do more damage than lightweight strike. Lightweight strike is going to be your SC generator, so that's why I use it for strafing run. But you could use in trap if you wanted. Chompers is more like a lower tier dot. You could use that as well, but in terms of damage, the highest damage is going to be in trap. The more utility and OK damage will be lightweight strike. And then just grasping hand, hand clap, and heat vision. The rotation itself, which I'll put a caption when I'm doing it just so you can see the constructs. Clipping lightweight strike with inspiration, and then I'm using hand clap times 2 construct, then grasping hand construct, clipping that with power grasping hand, doing the hold melee for grasping hand pull, and clipping that with heat vision, and then jump canceling heat vision after 2 ticks. The reason why you don't use fan is because in a strictly single target situation, grasping hand pull will do more damage than fan. Fan is AoE, so say you're in a boss fight with some ads, you may want to consider using tap range for that, just because fan will be AoE damage there, where grasping hand pull is single target. Alright, so the rotation here. Oh, I should mention about the trinket, just for people that'll say that. Obviously, there's no room for robot sidekicks. I'm using the Collector's Edition Batrone. You could just as easily use the LexCorp trinket. It does similar damage, as I proved in my previous video. So if you don't have, obviously, you most likely don't have this trinket, you can use LexBot for the same type of pet damage. Because I've also proved that Robot Sidekick is trash for range damage, so you shouldn't be using that anyway on the single target loadouts. Okay. Screwed up. Soda. Amount of power. But you get the idea. Obviously, Hardlight is very power heavy because the constructs cost power, which is also a dumb thing with Hardlight. But in terms of the parsers, the first parser is a bit more realistic. That's only 26% crit with inspiration. That's not bad. And it's 16.5. And that's a 14, 13.7. And this is completely unbuffed, just a base might. So if I'm buffed, that 16 turns into 17, 18, 19, 20 with the crits. And the crits are going to be high because I'm using inspiration. Okay, so in terms of showing you what the supercharges of light are capable with, we'll do an example here. I took a nitro and a compound, so that puts my might at 29,884. And then we'll do supply drop trinkets. I'll use RAM just to proc the escalate might so I can maximize that might. And you'll be using supplies and trinkets anyway for your supercharges, so gives an idea of what what it's capable of. A ballistic assault. And that put that at 398,614. Okay, first strafing run at 29,884 buffed might. Apply a trinket. And the dot's going to continue to tick. For an extra 50k damage. So that turns that into 514,549 damage from the strafing run. So, just over half a mil damage just from one strafing run. And while Ballistic Assault was like 300k damage, you got to account that you're stuck in that animation the entire time, so you're losing out on all the other damage. Where strafing run, you can just pop it and keep DPSing. So strafing run, like I said, it's not bad, it's not amazing, it's right in between. Okay, for the controlling side, light controlling has always been subpar when compared to the other ones. Even in the past, like Whip Thrash was your melee debuff, so you didn't have a choice. You had to be melee range to apply debuff, which was ridiculous at the time. But in terms of that, light recharges or regens your supercharge the lowest out of any of the controller power sets. Your best CC ability, Light Blast, is a channel that you have to jump cancel out of, and you get hardly any regen from it. Its shield doesn't have an aggro drop, which is the only shield it doesn't. So there's a lot of factors in light not being as good, but if you're light and you got to control, this is what you got to do. So obviously, in terms of the spec, it's like all my other control videos: hybrid, max power crits, max might and power, and then the rest into it. In terms of mods, always replenishing adapter. The back, there's nothing fancy for light in terms of cooldown wise, so run whatever you want. Neck is obviously going to be replenishing procs. If you want to take group shielding 3, go ahead. You don't have to. The chest is power efficiency always. Leg mod, same thing. Hardly any restorative mods. Don't worry about it. In terms of your elite procs, they should always be debuff efficiency. You don't technically need power strategist because that regen sucks anyway. And in terms of our artifact, it's always going to be power harness, and it's always, well, I have the 160 crap the soul cloak, and you'll eventually get there when you get your 700,000 XP. The reason why I use the power harness is we'll just do this here. So if I go to my stats, I've got 3 of them proc. So basically every time I use a debuff, I'm going to give 850 power and 141 prec. That'll stack 3 times, as well as my elite bonus, which is this one, the 2% critical power magnitude. That stacks 3 times as well. So that's, like I explained in my previous videos, that's all the same. In terms of the rotation, the only thing that changes is I'm going to hold Light Blast for like 2 seconds and then jump clip out of it just for the CC, because that's your best CC. Lightweight Strike is just a stupid knockdown. Snap Trap is a stun, but it's only single target. So you still have to use some kind of CC ability. So other than that, it's the same thing. Soul Filling Clip, Light Blast, hold for a second, jump off it. Hit your supercharge regen again, and then technically if you don't want to spam it like I do, just do this twice. And then just restart your rotation. You can't hold Light Blast the entire time because of all the power dumps you're missing. Not going to be beneficial. And ironically, that the construct version of these actually earn more supercharge than the power version. So it's just not a great power set overall for regenerating supercharge. But basically that's it.
Now let's see what happens when we mix these two elements together.
Spring break, yeah, spring break. I got Tanya, Christina, and April. We all in Cancun and I just caught the table. I'm getting wasted and thinking about nothing but bitches and more liquor. Man, it's amazing. In my hotel, just updated my room to a suite, so I filled it with freaks that I met on the beach and said, damn, spring break got the world going ham all day.
You listen to the YB.